In 1994, a bankrupt British motorcycle company with an unconventional engine shocked the racing world. Norton's 588 cubic centimeter rotary-powered machine dominated the British Superbike championship and left Honda scrambling for answers. This is the story of the engine that refused to quit. Norton motorcycles had been bleeding money for years. By 1994, the company was technically bankrupt, deep in debt, and barely holding on. Meanwhile, Honda was pouring millions into their RC45 program, fielding factory teams with unlimited budgets and the best riders money could buy. On paper, Norton had no business being on the same track. But they had something Honda didn't. A twin-rotor Wankel engine that made 140 horsepower, weighed almost nothing, and delivered power so smoothly it felt like cheating. The 588 cubic centimeter Rotary wasn't new in 1994. Norton had been developing it since the late 1980s, trying to turn a failed police bike engine into a racing weapon. The original motor came from the Interpol 2, an air-cooled bike built for British police departments that overheated constantly and burned through apex seals faster than officers could file paperwork. Only 350 units sold before Norton scrapped the project. Most companies would have given up. Norton handed the leftover engines to Brian Crichton, a former 588cc racing champion who saw potential where others saw junk. Crichton worked in a caretaker's shed during his spare time, tearing apart scrapped police engines and rebuilding them from scratch. He treated the Rotary like a two-stroke, altering port timing, upgrading carburation, and designing an ejector exhaust system that used exhaust velocity to pull cooling air through the engine. By 1987, he had a prototype making 120 horsepower. A test run at the Motor Industry Research Association track hit 170 miles per hour. Management approved a racing program immediately. The Wankel rotary engine works differently than every other motorcycle engine on the planet. Instead of pistons pumping up and down, it uses triangular rotors spinning inside an oval-shaped housing. Each rotor creates 3 combustion chambers, and because the rotors spin continuously rather than reversing direction like pistons, there's no vibration, no crankshaft, no connecting rods, no valves, no camshafts. Just 2 rotors spinning eccentrically at up to 11,000 RPM, creating a power delivery so smooth it felt electric decades before electric bikes existed. Norton's racing version displaced 588 cubic centimeters across both rotors, but the continuous combustion cycle meant it made power like a much larger engine. Racing officials eventually classified it as equivalent to 1,000 cc, which sparked endless debates about fairness. The compression ratio sat at 9.2 to 1, which was hard to adjust because rotor geometry doesn't work like piston geometry. Cooling evolved from air to liquid by 1989 as power climbed past 130 horsepower. The engine breathed through 34mm and 36mm Amal smoothbore carburetors mounted to ram air scoops built into the fairing. Fuel mixed with oil for apex seal lubrication, just like a two-stroke. It burned through gas fast, but in racing, that didn't matter. The complete RCW 588 racing bike weighed around 297 pounds dry. Honda's RC45 weighed closer to 420 pounds. That 123-pound difference was massive. The Norton used a Spondon aluminum twin spar frame, Kawasaki suspension, Dimag wheels, and not much else. Every ounce mattered. Power-to-weight ratio was the entire strategy. The engine made roughly 105 foot-pounds of torque at 9,500 RPM, which doesn't sound extreme until you factor in the weight. Acceleration felt explosive because there was nothing to hold back. The Rotary had one weird quirk that took serious skill to manage. It didn't use a traditional throttle. Power modulation came from spark advance and a kill switch. Twist the grip and the bike either went full send or shut off. There was no gradual roll-on. No engine braking, just binary on-off acceleration. Riders had to plan every corner exit perfectly because once they committed, the bike committed harder. That scared off some riders. The ones who adapted became legends. Steve Hyslop proved what the Rotary could do at the 1992 Isle of Man Senior TT. He battled Carl Fogarty on a Yamaha and Philip McCallan on a Honda for 6 laps around the 37-mile mountain course. Overnight, Crichton's team made cooling and aerodynamic changes to keep the engine from overheating on the long straights. Hislop overtook Fogarty in the final miles and won by 4.4 seconds, averaging 121.28 miles per hour. It was Norton's first TT victory in the senior class since 1961. The bike was called the White Charger because sponsorship drama kept it out of the usual black and gold JPS livery. That win put the Rotary on the map. By 1994, Norton was in even worse financial shape. Bankruptcy proceedings were underway, assets were being sold, the factory race team disbanded. But Brian Crichton partnered with Colin Seeley to keep the program alive under Duckham's oil sponsorship. Ian Simpson signed on to ride, unpaid, because he believed in the bike. The 1994 British Superbike Championship was a single-class format with no separation between different engine configurations. Honda fielded the RC45, a V4 homologation special designed specifically to dominate world superbike racing. Ducati brought the 916. Yamaha ran the YZF 750. Kawasaki had the ZX7R. Every manufacturer was there, and every manufacturer had more money than Norton. Simpson won 3 of the first 4 Super Cup rounds. The Rotary's advantage showed up everywhere. On corner exit, the smooth torque let Simpson get on the gas earlier than anyone else. On straights, the lightweight and high horsepower pushed the Norton past bikes with bigger engines. In the twisty sections, the lack of vibration gave Simpson better feedback through the chassis. He could feel exactly what the tires were doing, which meant he could brake later and lean harder. Honda riders watched Norton's pass them and spit flames from the exhaust, unable to keep up despite having factory support and significantly larger budgets. The Rotary made 135 to 148 horsepower on pump fuel, depending on tuning. Honda's RC45 made around 120 to 130 horsepower in race trim. Both bikes had similar top speeds, around 170 miles per hour, but the Norton got there faster and carried more speed through corners. Torque delivery was the key difference. The RC45's V4 made around 55 foot-pounds. The Norton's Rotary made 105 foot-pounds. That extra 50 foot-pounds, combined with 123 fewer pounds of weight, made the Norton feel like it was from the future. Simpson clinched the British Superbike Championship at Brands Hatch, becoming the first rider ever to win both the Superbike and Supersport 600cc titles in the same year. He did it on a bike from a bankrupt company, with a skeleton crew, running an engine design that most people thought was a dead end. Norton's total season results included multiple wins and 52 podium finishes across all riders. It wasn't just Simpson. Every rider on a Norton was fast. The engine worked. Honda was not happy. They had invested millions in the RC45 program, expecting to dominate national championships as a stepping stone to world superbike success. Instead, they were getting beaten by a shoestring British effort using an engine with no future. Factory Honda riders like Terry Reimer couldn't keep up. Team managers complained. Honda lobbied racing officials hard. The Rotary's classification became the focus. Was it really a 588cc bike competing fairly against 750cc 4-strokes, or was it effectively a 1000cc bike exploiting a loophole? The FIM had accepted the Rotary as 588 cubic centimeters in 1990, which let it enter the 500 cubic centimeter Grand Prix class if Norton wanted. But by 1994, the political pressure was building. Racing organizations wanted parity. The Rotary's non-piston design made it hard to compare directly to traditional engines. Some officials saw it as innovative. Others saw it as disruptive. Honda's lobbying tipped the scales. For 1995, new homologation rules required manufacturers to produce at least 250 road-legal versions of any bike they wanted to race. Norton couldn't comply. The company was bankrupt. They couldn't produce 250 units of anything. Even the F1 road bike, a detuned version of the RCW 588, making 95 horsepower, had only sold around 210 units total before production stopped. The new rules effectively banned Norton from racing. It wasn't a technical ban, it was a financial one. Honda got what they wanted. The Rotary was out. Norton's racing program died in 1995. The company continued to struggle financially, changing owners multiple times over the next 3 decades. Brian Crichton left to start his own projects, eventually founding Rotron Power to develop aerospace rotary engines. In 2021, he released the CR700W, an enlarged 700cc Rotary, making 220 horsepower and weighing just 285 pounds. It proved the concept still worked, but by then, racing had moved on. Piston engines had caught up in power-to-weight ratio, and environmental regulations made rotaries harder to justify. The two-stroke-style oil consumption and high fuel burn didn't fit modern emission standards. The 1994 Norton Rotary succeeded because it did one thing perfectly. It made huge power in a tiny, light package with almost no vibration. That combination was unbeatable in the right hands. Ian Simpson had those hands. Steve Hyslop had those hands. The engine didn't win because it was better in every way. It won because it was better in the ways that mattered most for the tracks they raced on. Acceleration out of slow corners, top speed on fast straights, handling through technical sections. The Rotary delivered all three. Honda's RC45 was a more complete motorcycle. It had better engine braking. It had more predictable throttle response. It was easier to ride fast consistently. But in the hands of a skilled rider who understood the Rotary's quirks, the Norton was faster. That's what bothered Honda. They had built a bike that should have dominated. Instead, they got embarrassed by a company that couldn't afford to pay its riders. The Apex seal wear issue never fully disappeared. Rotary engines needed regular rebuilds because the seals between the rotors and housing wore down over time. That required pulling the entire engine apart, which was expensive and time-consuming. Fuel consumption was terrible. The Rotary burned through gas like it was angry at petroleum. But in racing, those drawbacks were manageable. Teams rebuilt engines constantly anyway. Fuel economy didn't matter when you were trying to win championships. Comparing the Norton Rotary to Honda's V4 shows how different approaches can achieve similar results. Honda used proven technology, refined over decades, with massive development budgets. Norton used unconventional engineering, limited resources, and pure determination. Honda built a bike that any skilled rider could ride fast. Norton built a bike that only certain riders could extract maximum performance from. Both bikes were capable of winning. The Norton just made it happen first in 1994. The legacy of the 1994 Norton Rotary isn't about the engine itself, it's about what the engine represented. A small British company with no money beat a Japanese giant with unlimited resources. David beat Goliath using a rock that spun at 11,000 revolutions per minute. That story resonated with motorcycle fans who were tired of seeing the same manufacturers win every championship. The Rotary became a symbol of innovation and persistence. It proved that clever engineering could overcome financial disadvantages, at least for a little while. Modern Norton, now owned by Indian automotive giant TVS, has moved away from Rotaries entirely. Their current lineup uses traditional engines. The Rotary remains a historical footnote, celebrated by enthusiasts who remember when a bankrupt company shocked the world. Surviving RCW 588 race bikes sell for huge money at auctions. Collectors want them because they represent a moment when the impossible became possible, when the underdog won. The 1994 season was the Rotary's peak. Everything came together perfectly. The right rider, the right bike, the right competition, the right timing. 1 year later, it was over. New rules, same financial problems, and no path forward. But that one season proved the concept worked. The 588cc twin-rotor Wankel engine could compete at the highest national level and win. It silenced Honda not by being louder, but by being faster when it counted most. The Norton Rotary died because racing politics and corporate lobbying killed it, not because the engine stopped working. That's the tragedy and the triumph of the story. It succeeded completely and failed permanently at the same time. Norton built an engine that could have changed motorcycle racing forever. Instead, it became a legend that lasted one perfect season. And sometimes that's enough. The 1994 Norton 588cc Rotary didn't just compete with Honda. For one incredible year, it beat them. That's something no amount of money or lobbying can erase from history.